is going to be wiped out. Third holder, your $29,000 mortgage will be wiped out and left with zero. However, I've got a solution for you. Here's what I'd like to do. I want to buy this property, but I can't buy it the way it is now. If you, second holder, would agree to reduce your $47,000 mortgage down to $17,000, I'll promise you that when I sell this property, you'll get $17,000. But I can make you another promise. That if you decide not to, and you let that first foreclose, I promise you, you will end up with zero. What do you think his option, what do you think his decision was? He opted for $17,000. And the third holder reduced from $29,000 to $10,000. Now look at this. The amount owed against the property went from $203 to $154, not upside down any longer, is it? Chuck made himself $47,000 that day on a house that was upside down. Is that something that you guys could do, yes or no? Is that something you could do? Once you learn how to do it and do it correctly, right? You can do that. And so what happens then, you put yourself in a unique position that all of these properties that are upside down and people walking away from them, investors are driving right past them, they don't know what to do with them, now you can make money. Where they couldn't make money, you can make money, because once you learn how to discount liens, you can make money anytime. Because there's so many properties that are upside down. And that's one of the things that I pride myself on, is teaching my abandoned property students how to go after these kinds of properties and discount those liens. So now, here's another little ad I want to tell you about. I write some pretty good ads, and they are very, very, very effective. Some people may say, well, Reggie, I understand you can make that kind of money, but I don't have the money to fix the property up. I got to fix it up in order to sell it in order to make the money. How do I do that? Anybody here ever gotten a government program? Government subsidy, low interest rate loan, grant, anything like that? Okay, got to tap into that, because that's there for you. And so, if you didn't want to use a government program, and that's fine, there are other things that you can do, because with a vacant, rundown, abandoned, distressed property, creativity is wide open. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. We can run a little ad in the newspaper. And that ad is designed, and I took about a week to write this ad. It took every bit of a week, but it's perfectly written, and it works extremely well. When that ad runs, it's designed to find people that have money in the bank and get them to call in. Remember, we talked about this earlier. How much are you making in your bank? You're making 1%. You're making more than most. When the next session, I'm going to show you the results of some research that I did, and I'm going to show you what banks are paying you now. 1/10 of 1% is the lowest that I found. 1% is the highest. So when these people, they see the ad and they call in, they learn that they can make 20% return on their money. They also learn that their money is secured by the real estate, because it's going to be a real estate rehab loan. And they also learn that if Chuck doesn't pay them back, they get to come and foreclose on the property, take the property, which is worth so much more than the money that they're going to lend. And so that one ad, I mean, it's a killer ad, and it works extremely well. So Chuck borrowed $20,000. He ran that ad, and he had all these people calling him. He was able to select the person that had the strongest credentials. He borrowed $20,000 from that person, paid him 20% on that money. His cost of funds were $4,000. If you're going to make $60,000 or $70,000 on a vacant, distressed property, can you afford to pay $4,000 for your rehab? Of course you can. Most people will get stuck right there and say, I don't know what to do. There's so much you can do with a vacant, distressed, abandoned property, because the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. And so, okay, so that's what Chuck did. Now there's another little thing that happened. When that guy loaned Chuck that $20,000, he got that money back within 2 months. Most of my investors, most of my students, they do an abandoned property deal in 2 months. But what if it took Chuck 6 whole months to get that money back? He promised him a 20% return on that money. If it took him 6 months and he got it back in 6 months instead of a year, how much of a return is that? 40% return. Yeah, be twice as much. But well, no, it wouldn't be twice as much, but it's a 40% return. The ROI is twice as much. So we know that birds of a feather kind of flock together, don't they? So while this guy's out on the golf course bragging about his 40% return, I just made a 40% return on my money. And all his buddies are like, what? Hey, can I do that? I got money. Can you take my money? I want 40%. I'll set up for 20%. Isn't that what's going to happen? And so now you just created a pathway to all the money that you're going to need. Not only for rehab, But you give them their 40%, their 20% return, give it to them early. That ROI goes way up high. And now they're chasing you, trying to give you money, saying, look, I know that was for rehab, but you're going to need some money for acquisition, aren't you? Don't you want to buy these houses? I've got about 30 or 300,000 that I'd like to put out there. 20% return on 300,000? Nice return. But you see, you never have to go to a bank. Because these kinds of properties lend themselves so very well to creativity. So, what are abandoned properties? All across America, people walk away from these properties for all kinds of different reasons. They can be a divorce situation, they can be a job relocation, a death or an illness in the family. So you're going to get some of the greatest don't-want-her properties. They don't want them. They walk away from them. And they can be anything. They're usually vacant. You don't have to do evictions when they're vacant. They can be single families, condos, apartment buildings, commercial buildings, all kinds of buildings, they didn't even be vacant lots. But they walked away from them for some reason. They're no longer wanted by their owners, and the owners are probably experiencing pressure from the neighbors, saying, look, you got to fix this property up, because it's bringing our property values down. The neighbors don't like that. One attribute that is so very important, very little competition. How many people do you know that are working some level of foreclosure? REOs, defaults, trustee sales. How many people do you know that are trying to tap into the shadow market? Or even the hidden market? How many people do you know that are working vacant and distressed properties and making a ton doing it? There's very, very little competition here. Yeah, just 8723 South Bering Cross was one of our early abandoned houses. As you can see,
what city is that in?
This is in Los Angeles.
I
I don't do Santa Barbara, but listen to this. You may not find a lot of abandoned properties in Santa Barbara. However, what are your outlying cities?
Ventura.
Yeah, Lompoc. What about Carpinteria? Any abandoned properties in Carpinteria?
No.
Okay, what about Lompoc? I have a friend in Lompoc. I saw a bunch of them when I visited my friend in Lompoc. Yeah. And so what I'm going to say is this. I was doing a seminar in Orange County, in Irvine, and they had the same concern that, oh, there's no abandoned properties here. But then when I got done letting them know that you get in your car and drive 8 to 10 minutes outside your city. You're going to find Seal Beach, you're going to find Signal Hill, you're going to find Long Beach, you're going to find all these other areas where there's millions of abandoned properties. I would be willing to bet you that even though you may not find a million of them in Santa Barbara, you will find some, but not that many. But you go to the outlying areas where they're prevalent. There's lots of them in the outlying areas. So keep that in mind.
How do we find abandoned properties?
Please let me finish, and I'm sure I'm going to answer every single one of your questions by the time I'm done, okay?
A few minutes.
All right, and if not, if I happen not to answer your question, please see me in the back, okay? And I'll hang around as long as you need me to answer your questions. All right, this is one that had holes in the side of the building. All the windows are boarded up, doors boarded up. Look at the grass. The grass would be overgrown, but it's dead. It can't grow anymore. Here's another one. Los Angeles, 6923 South Estrella Avenue. I brought all the LA ones with me. By the overgrowth and vegetation. Excuse me. Can you tell that this has been abandoned for a long time? I need water.
Got lots of water back there. Reggie.
I will put water.
And white.
That's better. No, man. Leave me alone. All right. You can tell that this has been vacant for a long time, right? Anybody here see that this is a 5-unit building? Getting tell, can you? This property throws out so much cash right now, you would be amazed at how much money this property throws out. But everybody walked right past it, drove right past it, didn't want to have anything to do with it. You know why? Lack of knowledge. They didn't know what to do with it. And people are afraid of making mistakes. We talked about that outside. How are you going to learn anything if you don't make a mistake and learn that lesson that's embedded in that mistake? You don't have to make the mistakes. You learn from my mistakes because I've documented my mistakes and I've documented my successes. And I put that in the form of a home study course. And so therefore you capitalize on my mistakes, not on yours. USA Today says that abandoned properties are opportunities just waiting to happen. And they say here the people with a vision are transforming these buildings and they're returning them to the housing stock of America. And in doing so, they're putting hundreds of thousands of dollars in their pockets. Anybody here interested in putting hundreds of thousands of dollars in your pockets? A vacant, rundown property? I'll show you exactly what we do to do exactly that. USA Today said it. The Wall Street Journal talked about it as well. So how do we find them?
That's great, everybody got the answer.
Told you I'd answer your questions.
The question is being answered.
Well, you know, when I first got started, I would drive up one street down the other, and I'd call it driving for dollars or chasing abandoned properties. And I would jot down the address of the properties that seemed to be overgrown, seemed to be vacant. And then I would go back to my home and I'd process that information. Here's processing. This is the information that you're going to need. You're going to need the owner of record, mailing address, number of bedrooms, number of baths, square footage, lot size. Zoning would be helpful, but you need one other thing, very important. You need the comps. You need the comparable sales. And the comps is what's going to show you how much a property is worth before you buy it and then how much it's worth after you fix it up. That way you know how much profit you're going to make. Okay? And in the abandoned property system, how many of you getting your comps for free? All your comps for free? Just a few of you? Guys, you got to get them for free. I hope you're not paying for them. In the abandoned property system, I lay out how you can get your comps absolutely free. You never pay for comps anymore. You don't do that. But I want to save you the money. Get them for free. Now, I just talked about chasing abandoned properties. I want to show you how to get abandoned properties chasing you. To me, that's a much better way to get rich. Getting abandoned properties chasing me rather than me chasing them. And there's a million different ways to do it. I'll share one with you now. Let's say we have a $400 advertising budget. We want to run an ad in the newspaper. And the ad might say, I can buy your distressed property. I can buy it in its present condition. I can close in 15 days. Call Reggie. And then you put your phone number in there. Now, you know you don't put call Reggie, right? You put your name and your phone number. Okay. And then you run that ad. Now, what are the chances of someone calling you with a $70,000 or $80,000 deal in the next 10 days or so that you can make? Some people say no chance at all. I'll say very, very slim. But let's do this. Let's think a little bit. This is an abandoned property. It lends itself so well to creativity. How can we create a pathway to success here? Here's one of the ways we can do it. Get yourself a couple of friends or relatives. Everything that I talk about is going to be very, very conservative. I said a couple here. You're going to have the tendency to go out there and get 100. Don't do it yet. Just start off with a couple. Let them know about vacant and abandoned properties. In your home study course, the abandoned property system, I have every form that you need to be successful. One of those forms is a rehab analysis form. What I want you to do is to make a whole bunch of copies of that form, give it to the 2 people that you have that are going to go out there looking for abandons for you. Let them know to fill it out when they see that property. Have them take a picture of the property. Everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody's got a camera in their cell phone. They can either email it or text it to you so you can see what it looks like. And also, you can let them go into the back, take pictures of the back if they can get back there, but do not allow them to do anything unhealthy or illegal. Please, don't let them do it, okay? Then have them talk to the neighbor to the left, the neighbor to the right, and don't forget about the neighbors across the street. Have them ask about the whereabouts of that owner. And now you let them know, you got 2 people, friends or relatives or a combination, let them know that you're going to give them $20 for every lead that they bring you. Now these days, isn't it true that people need extra money and they don't mind working for it? They can use a little extra money. It helps to get cornflakes on the table for their kids in the morning before they run out to school. At least that. So $20 per lead, they're going to like that. So you send one in one direction and one in the other. And within 10 days, 2 weeks, they both come back. And they both have, say, 10 leads for you. So you promise them $20 a lead, $200 over there, $200 over there. But what have you got to show for it? You have 20 good, strong, vacant, abandoned, run-down, distressed property leads. With the form filled out, the pictures taken, they've already talked to the owners, already have a line on where that owner is. And now you go to work. And what was your investment for those 20 good, strong leads? It was your advertising budget $400 advertising budget was going to have you handcuffed to a phone that would never ring. This is a much better use of your time and your money. If you agree with me, please put your hands up. Thank you. Much better use of your time and your money. And there's so many other ways to do that. And now here's one that I want to share with you. My daughter, Arlette, she was 17 years old when she saw that we were getting involved in real estate, and she got excited. We were making so much money, she wanted to make something. So she comes to me and she says, Dad, I see what you and Mom are doing. Can you teach me about real estate? I'd like to learn. And I'm thinking to myself, she's 17 years old. She still goes out and parties at night. Chances are she's going to waste my time. But that's okay. I'm her dad, and I'm her dutiful dad. And my job is to empower her with the tools that she's going to need in order to move forward in a positive direction and to be rich doing it. So I decided I'm going to teach her abandoned properties. We were working with a database at the time. And in this database, I dropped out a big long list. If I held it up here, it would fall all the way to the floor and unfold to the floor. And there were lots of different potential investments, many of those vacant, distressed properties. So I taught her how to find them, taught her how to find the owners. And I told her, go forth, young woman, gave her the list. I taught you now, go forth. Let me not see you again until you come back with a good, profitable deal. I'm thinking I'm going to get her out of my hair for a couple of weeks, right? I had hair at the time. I know what you're thinking. That was a long time ago. All right, so the very next morning, she takes off. 10 o'clock in the morning, list in one hand, the boyfriend in the other hand. And then she comes back at 2:30 that afternoon, and she was so wild with excitement. Daddy, it worked. I found one, Dad. You told me what to do, and I did it, Daddy. I found a good one. I found a 4-unit. Daddy, we're going to get rich. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what did I? Let me see what you got, girl. And I looked at it, and I started smiling. It looked like a good one. Let me show you a picture of the property. Here it is. This is the property that she found. 4-unit building, Orchard Avenue, 8633 South Orchard Avenue. Here's the front door to the 4 units. Taught her how to find them, how to find the owners. Now I got to teach her what to say to the owner. So she called up the owner, and she said exactly what I told her to say. And I told her, don't say this, this, and this. Say this, this, and this. I don't want you to blow the deal. Give permission for us to go inside. And she did that. So we went over there. It was myself, my wife, and my daughter. My son was away at school. And so we go over there, and now the owner taught us how to open the front door. The front door's right there. I opened the front door, and man, the smell that came out of that unit, woo! My God, you talking about funk. That was the funkiest smell I ever smelled in my life. It was like, you know, if you could see smell be like a fall coming at you like that. Knock the wrinkles out of your suit. Whew! But you know, that day, I was a perfect gentleman. My mother would have been so proud of me because she taught me how to be the perfect gentleman at all times, and I was. She probably smiled from heaven when I opened the door and I stood back and I let my wife and my daughter go in. Perfect gentleman. See, when I got in there, I realized what the smell was all about. There had been a fire in the ceiling, and when they came and put the fire out, all the water and the drywall came down into the carpet. Nobody ever bothered to take the carpet out. Year after year after year. Can you imagine the fragrance? You see, I didn't call it a smell. That's a fragrance. That's the money fragrance. When you smell that fragrance, you know you're going to make money. This building smelled like a small fortune to me. And I knew I was going to make some big money. Let me show you the money that we made on this vacant, distressed, abandoned 4-unit building. I love 4-unit buildings. One thing that I taught her, remember I told you those fire damage. So I taught her, when we write up that offer, we're going to put a clause in there. Now, in your abandoned property, of course, has the most powerful contract in the world, has 19 of these money-making clauses all embedded in the contract. But this is one of the clauses from there, and I told her, we've got to use this clause. It's the fire clause. And it's written, and it goes like this. This offer is subject to the seller assigning to the buyer the insurance settlement. How did I know there was an insurance settlement? Well, there was a mortgage on the property. What do you have to have in place if you have a mortgage? Or deep pockets, one or the other.